got new books coming out in April, starting, of course, with the big fiction releases. David Baldacci has book number 2 to his latest thriller series coming out. So Nash Falls is the name of the first one that came out last year. The series is about a mild-mannered businessman who learns he's working for a criminal organization, one that he must infiltrate in this second book. Revenge Prey is John Sanford's latest Lucas Davenport novel, long-running thriller series, and in this one, Davenport must track down ruthless Russian hitmen. Rights of the Starling by Devney Perry is the second book in a romantasy series set in an imaginary world of powerful monsters and cunning hunters. The first book, for what it's worth, was titled Shield of Sparrows, and I think also came out last year. Shadow Strike is the next political thriller featuring the series protagonist Pike Logan going head-to-head with an old enemy and renowned assassin. And in A Woman's Place, Danielle Steele's latest, after surviving a brush with death on the Titanic, a young aristocratic woman finds her place in the world of business as she falls in love with the man her father trusted to protect her. So the ending writes itself. You've probably never heard of Evelyn Clark, but Evelyn Clark is the pseudonym of 2 other authors, that being Kat Clark and V.E. Schwab. So they've teamed together to write this locked room mystery in which 6 writers are recruited to finish a recently deceased mystery author's final novel and end up becoming entangled in a twisted game. Emma Straub's latest book, American Fantasy, follows Annie, who boards a 90s-themed cruise ship with her sister and unexpectedly bonds with her favorite boy band while rediscovering the joys and frustrations of her youth. And lastly, we have A Deadly Episode by Anthony Horowitz. This is his latest book in his mystery series. This one takes place on a movie set where the lead has just been murdered and everyone has a motive.
London Falling by Patrick Radin Keefe is described as a spellbinding account of a family devastated by the sudden death of their 19-year-old son, only to discover that he'd created a secret life which drew him into the dangerous criminal London underworld. I Choose Me by Jenny Graff is written with warmth and candor. This memoir invites readers into her real-life story, both with heartbreak and joy, as she shares the raw truths of growing up on screen and finding herself off screen. Where the Music Had to Go by Jim Windolf. This captivating dual biography delves into the relationship between Bob Dylan and the Beatles, uncovering how they inspired and transformed each other and the music, described as highly entertaining and packed with backstage anecdotes. Duty, Honor, Country, and Life by retired Admiral William H. McRaven. This is an inspiring collection of speeches, essays, and other writings from the retired Admiral. Full of his unique writing style and perspective, this collection recalls a variety of stories of courage, sacrifice, and honor. It is being described as a timely reflection of what values we hold dear and what that means for our future. The Rolling Stones by Bob Spritz. What's left to write when it comes to the Rolling Stones? As it turns out, quite a bit, according to reviews for this book. It examines the stories that we think we know and looks a lot deeper into the magic of the legendary rock band, focusing on the relationship between its bandmates. The Story of the Birds by Stephen. You will never look at a songbird or chicken the same way. This is a sweeping and accessible evolutionary history of birds, from their dinosaur origins to the more than 10,000 extraordinary species still alive today. Intimate Audrey by Sean Hepburn Frary and Wendy Holden. This is a deeply personal and intimate portrait of Audrey Hepburn, created from interviews from those who knew her best and previously unshared records and photographs, taking you from her humble beginnings as a child survivor of the Second World War in the Netherlands to her legendary career and work as a humanitarian and activist. This Land is Your Land by Beverly Gage is described as a ride-along with a Pulitzer Prize-winning author and historian as she treks across the country visiting museums, historic sites, roadside attractions, reenactments, and souvenir shops where Americans learn and fight about history.
Break Room is an intriguing and fantastical novella from one of the biggest stars in Korean fiction. So this one has been translated from the Korean. It's a psychological thriller set in South Korea that combines office politics with a reality TV game show. So the premise, 8 people are selected to participate in a new reality show called Break Room. It turns out they were all voted in by their coworkers for their role as the office villain in their respective workplaces. But one participant is merely an actor, and to win, they must successfully identify the imposter. According to Publishers Weekly, Lee captures the gossipy appeal of reality TV as her characters size up perfect strangers in the name of lining their pockets. Concise, thought-provoking, and entertaining, this goes down smooth. So for read-alikes, first up is The Compound, which is a thriller with a dystopian bent, in which a young woman competes on a popular reality TV show to stay in the compound while the world outside is falling apart. And The Really Dead Wives of New Jersey is a thriller that revolves around a hit reality TV show. You have similar elements of secrets, intense rivalry, and this one includes a startling murder. No Way Home is the latest by T.C. Boyle. David Lynch meets Fight Club in this compulsive, obsessive, and psychologically haunted novel. So when Terrence, a young, naive LA medical resident, is informed that his mother has died, he goes to the small Nevada town where his mother was living when she passed. And a chance encounter with a pretty young local at a cafe upends his life and morphs into a fatal obsession as he is drawn into a toxic love triangle with the young woman and her ex-boyfriend. The narrative alternates perspectives of those 3 characters, none of whom, as one reviewer puts it, emerges unscathed from Boyle's piercing depictions of their transactional and self-serving behavior. So this book is described as wickedly absorbing, suspenseful, tough, and atmospheric. I'm sure it's a bit on the grittier side of fiction if that's your cup of tea. The Last King of California by Jordan Harper is a stirring and brutal coming-of-age story about a young man who returns home to his criminal family in the California desert. Similar tones and similar premise there. And in Tell Me Lies, a young woman at a California college is seduced by a charismatic classmate. In this thrilly, sexy, coming-of-age story exploring toxic love, ruthless ambition, and shocking betrayal.
We have The Bush Tea Murder by Ashley Ruth Viner. This is the first in a new series. Culinary journalist Naomi is returning to St. Thomas, and her return is heralded by a series of troubling cases from petty offenses to cold-blooded murder. Luckily, Naomi is adept at solving puzzles as she is rolling out Johnny Cake dough. Described as being rich with mouth-watering recipes, lush landscapes, and fun, this book has all the ingredients to make a perfect summer read. Described as perfect for fans of Carrie Doyle and Joanne Fluke. My first read-alike is Barbacoa, Bamba, and Betrayal by Raquel V. Praised. I chose this book because of its similar descriptions of mouth-watering Caribbean food and an accomplished amateur sleuth finding herself in the deep end after returning home. It is actually the 3rd in the Caribbean Kitchen Mystery Series. In this one, Miriam takes a surprise trip to visit her parents, and it should be an easy, breezy, relaxing trip until she learns of the mysterious vandalism happening to her parents' rental properties. Things only get worse from there. This is described as a fun, lighthearted, food-focused mystery. The other read-alike I have is The Girl with the Dragon Fruit Tattoo by Carrie Doyle. Also set around Caribbean cuisine. In this one, Plum is excited to be invited to a glamorous dinner on a yacht set sail across the Caribbean Sea. That is until 2 days later, when one of the servers, a girl with the dragon fruit tattoo, winds up dead. Everyone has a motive and opportunity, and it is up to Plum to figure out who killed her before she becomes the next victim in this well-plotted murder. And then next up we have Liddy by Jane Smiley. It is set in 1857 and is the sequel to the all true travels and adventures of Liddy Newton. With the Civil War looming, Liddy Newton must figure out her way in a world as she mourns the murder of her husband. She takes special interest in her niece Annie, who wants to go on the run to become an actress. Liddy won't let Annie go by herself, so armed with a pistol and her wits, they set off on a perilous journey that will take them across the Atlantic. It is described as delivering a lush panoramic portrait of two women during a volatile time period. Naturally, the first read-alike is The All True Adventures of Liddy Newton. This book was originally published in the 1990s, so unfortunately we only have it as an e-book, but it introduces you to Liddy, her life in the Kansas Territory during the maelstrom of the Kansas, as well as Smiley's signature writing style. The other read-alike I have is The Invention of Wings by Susan Moe Kidd. Because of its similar time period and complex characters, it is a powerful and sweeping historical novel inspired by the true events around the relationship between two extraordinary women during the antebellum in the Deep South. It is described as lyrically written with emotionally powerful themes about the world of contradictions in America.
A Killer in the Family is a drama set among New York City's ultra-wealthy that explores the darker side of the American dream. Ali, a carefree party boy from Mumbai, decides it's time to grow up and enters an arranged marriage with Marion, the poised daughter of powerful real estate tycoon Abbas Khan. After the wedding, Ali moves to New York and is welcomed into the Khan family's world of staggering privilege, private helicopters, soaring skyscrapers, and lavish summers in the Hamptons. But beneath the glamour, rumors begin to swirl around Abbas Khan, including accusations of corruption and secret affairs. Mariam dismisses them, but her rebellious sister Farron hints that something far more sinister lies beneath Abbas's success. Unable to ignore his suspicions, Ali starts digging into his father-in-law's past as he uncovers unsettling truths. He must decide whether he can remain part of the Khan family and accept the moral cost that comes with their immense wealth and power. My real-likes are going to be Imperial Bedrooms by Bret Easton Ellis, set 25 years after the events of Less Than Zero. Imperial Bedrooms revisits play and the decadent circle of friends who came of age in the 1980s Los Angeles. Now a successful screenwriter living in New York, Clay returns to LA to cast his latest film and reconnects with familiar faces. As old habits and temptations resurface, Clay becomes entangled in manipulation, addiction, and betrayal, forcing him to confront the darker sides of Hollywood and himself. And Margaret Atwood's The Blind Assassin is a very slow burn Booker Prize winning novel, beginning with the mysterious death of Laura Chase in 1945. Decades later, her sister Iris looks back at their privileged but troubled upbringing and the tragedies that shaped their eccentric family. Interwoven with Iris's memories are passages from Laura's scandalous novel where two forbidden lovers invent a strange sci-fi tale about a blind assassin on a distant planet, and these layered stories gradually converge long-buried secrets about the Chase family which come to light, leading to a stunning final twist.
The Paris Match is a new romance written with decadent prose and a moody Elysian setting. So this one is about a woman who tests the limits of her so-called amicable divorce when she flies to Paris for the destination wedding of her former sister-in-law, only to butt heads with the deliciously gruff best man. Claiborne whisks readers to Paris in this steamy, slow burn, ideal for armchair travelers. She gives both protagonists impressive emotional depth as they work through past heartbreaks and discover unexpected new love. Add in a well-earned happy ending, and this is sure to charm. Secret Nights and Northern Lights by Megan Oliver. In this one, childhood best friends and first loves are reunited on a work trip to Iceland. So if you like, romance overseas. And then of course, the Paris Connection is set in Paris. More specifically, this one is a heartfelt debut about a woman who meets a man while stranded in Paris for a day.
In Jane Harper's last one out, the once thriving town of Caroline Ridge in rural New South Wales is slowly dying, bought up and hollowed out by a nearby mining company until only a few residents remain among the dust and abandoned buildings. 5 years earlier, Rose's son, Sam, vanished while visiting the town he loved, leaving behind only a rental car and a trail that quickly went cold. Sam had been recording the town's oral history, determined to preserve its stories before it disappeared entirely. Now returning to Caroline Ridge on the anniversary of his disappearance, Roe begins to suspect something in Sam's case was missed. As he digs deeper, she uncovers tensions, buried histories, and the unsettling possibility that someone in the dying town is determined to keep its secrets buried no matter the cost. In Amico Jeans, The Return of Ellie Black, Detective Chelsea Calhoun has spent her career searching for missing girls, haunted by the disappearance of her own sister 20 years earlier. When a teenager named Ellie Black, missing for 2 years, is suddenly found alive in the woods of Washington State, the case seems like a miracle, but Ellie refuses to explain where she's been or who might be responsible. As Chelsea investigates, she becomes determined to uncover the truth, not only for Ellie, but for her sister and for the next girl who might vanish. And in Stacey Willingham's All the Dangerous Things, Isabel Drake has spent a year searching for answers after her toddler son, Mason, was taken from his crib in the middle of the night while she and her husband slept nearby. With the case long gone cold, Isabel has become consumed by the search, so much so that she hasn't truly slept in a year. Hoping to uncover new leads, she agrees to speak with a true crime podcaster, but his questions begin digging into her past and stirring up disturbing childhood memories. As exhaustion and doubt cloud her mind, Isabel starts to question what really happened the night Mason disappeared and whether she can trust anyone, even herself, as she pursues the truth.
Okay, the infinite sadness of small appliances. This is a heartfelt, original, charming tale reminiscent of The Brave Little Toaster. You guys ever seen The Brave Little Toaster? Remember that animated movie?
Still scarred.
So, in a near future, an older couple facing end-of-life challenges are living in a smart home of interconnected, sentient appliances. One of those appliances, a Roomba, who renames herself Scout in honor of the To Kill a Mockingbird character, tries to save them from a rising technological power, the all-consuming grid. Readers who enjoy stories that mix an intimate domestic setting with big questions about AI and control will find this both moving and surprisingly hopeful. So this one has themes like over-reliance on technology, privacy, control, and the intersection of technology and humans. And covers that without getting too dark, it would seem. This was a little bit difficult to find read-alikes that had the same kind of quirky, unique feel, but the couple I have up there, first off is The Candy House, which is about a technology that allows access their every memory. So there's similar themes there. It's probably a pretty different writing style. I think she incorporates a lot of different styles of writing within this one. And then Clara and the Sun is the story of an observant robot who's waiting to be bopped as an artificial friend. And that one explores the question, what does it mean to love?
In James Wolfe's Spies and Other Gods, Sir William Rentoul, head of British intelligence, is struggling with brain fog and the stresses of a career nearing retirement when an anonymous complaint lands on Parliament's desk. The Parliament targets his most sensitive case, an operation involving an Iranian assassin and a string of murders. The investigator, Alfra McQueen, a seemingly low parliamentary researcher whose intelligence, tenacity, and rebellious streak make her far more formidable than expected. As she probes the case, Alfra uncovers secrets that put her in a danger, forcing her across London, Birmingham, Paris, and Lausanne. Tout, clever, and full of intrigue, Spies and Other Gods is a thrilling exploration of espionage, trust, and the high stakes of uncovering truths that some would kill to keep hidden. In John le Carre's Legacy of Spies, Peter Gillam is pulled from retirement back to London, where his Cold War past comes under scrutiny, including missions involving Alec Lamass, Jim Prideaux, and Gillam himself are now being re-examined by a new generation with no memory of the stakes. Blending past and present, Le Carre delivers a tense, morally complex thriller that revisits iconic characters while revealing the enduring consequences of espionage and loyalty. And in Deanna Ray Warren's Killers of a Certain Age, 4 lifelong assassins, Billy, Mary, Alice, Helen, and Natalie. Why is it 4? Oh gosh. Anyways, face the ultimate challenge at 60, having spent decades working for the elite museum network. They're considered outdated in a world dominated by technology. Sent on a retirement vacation, they discover they've been marked for death by their own organization. Now the women must rely on their skills, experience, and unbreakable bond to survive, turn the tables on the museum, and prove that being a woman and a killer of a certain age is not to be underestimated.
Stranger Things Have Happened by Casey West is a new romance. This is a steamy fake relationship, small town rom-com. Sutton's fake engagement becomes something real when Sutton finds herself agreeing to be Elijah's fake fiance for the purposes of helping him and his brother Michael attend premarital couples counseling. Little did she know that Michael's fiance is her former high school best friend. Described as steamy, fun, flirty, happily ever after, well worth it. My first read-alike is Next in Line by Amy Dawes. This is a fun, flirty rom-com that begs the question, what happens when the cute mountain man you made out with on a whim ends up being your brother's best friend? Maggie was hoping for a fun catch and release after a devastating breakup. Sam is looking for more, but gossip in this small town melts ice. I'm so sorry, guys. I am losing track of my notes.
Not a problem.
But basically, gossip is hot enough to melt ice in this small town, and how can a secret like this be kept from his best friend? Light-hearted, steamy, and perfect for a spring thaw. Fake Flame by Adele Buck. What starts as a fake relationship burns into more when Eva is about to light her ex's piano on fire after he cheated on her. Sean, a firefighter, has to talk her down and offers to be her fake boyfriend to get back at her cheating ex. Soon the line between fake and real is smoldering. This is a steamy, big-hearted rom-com with lovable characters.
In Keigo Hakashino's Guilt, Detective Godai of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police investigates the murder of lawyer Kensuke Shirashi, whose body is found on a central Tokyo riverbank. The prime suspect, Tatsuro Kuroki, shocks everyone by confessing, not only to Shirashi's killing, but also to murder from 30 years ago. Godai and both the victim's daughter and Kuroki's son suspect the truth is far more complicated. As Godai delves deeper, he uncovers intricate connections between past and present, revealing that guilt, motive, and justice are far from simple. Higashino's Guilt is a masterful, twisting crime novel that explores the moral ambiguities of innocence, culpability, and the ripple effects of violence on everyone's. While writing this. So reader likes for this are going to be Tokyo Redo by David Peace. Tokyo 1949 is in turmoil after the president of Japanese National Railways disappears just after announcing massive layoffs. American detective Harry Sweeney investigates amid post-war occupation and social upheaval. 15 years later, as Tokyo readies for the 1964 Olympics, private investigator Hideki Moroto is drawn back into the case he avoided for years. Over 20 years on, in 1988, Donald Reichenbach, an aging American living in Japan, discovers that solving this long-buried mystery, the greatest of the Showa era, is now his responsibility. And again, Kyogo Higashino, this is the beginning of another series, another series he did. The Devotion of Suspect X, Yasuka, a quiet Tokyo bento shop worker and devoted mother, has her peaceful life shattered when her ex-husband suddenly appears at her door. When Detective Kosanagi investigates the resulting crime, he encounters baffling circumstances that defy explanation. Solving the case will require extraordinary insight to unravel the cunning and brilliance behind this seemingly impossible crime. And Brown, The Lost Book of Elizabeth Barton. Historian Alison Sage makes a stunning discovery, a long-lost manuscript by a 16th century prophetess whose warnings against Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn once led to her execution. Allison's finds thrust her into academic fame and earn her an invitation to the Codex Consortium, a week-long research retreat at a crumbling English manor near the ruins of Barton's Priory. But the scholarly retreat soon turns deadly when a murder occurs and everyone becomes a suspect. As Allison digs into centuries-old secrets, including the local legend of hidden treasure, she must navigate rivalries, resurfacing feelings for a former colleague, and the murky motives of fellow historians. Interweaving the perilous intrigues of Elizabeth's England with Allison's modern quest, The Lost Book of Elizabeth Barton is a gripping dual timeline murder mystery full of suspense, secrets, and historical intrigue. Reader likes are, and these are from Jamie, anything by Fiona Davis was what I was told. Colt, Jada Colts, by any other name. Young playwright Melina Green struggles to have her work performed in a male-dominated theater world until her best friend submits her play under a male pseudonym. Centuries earlier, Amelia Bassano, a talented Elizabethan ward, is denied a voice and forced into the Lord Chamberlain's household, yet secretly schemes to bring her own play to the stage by enlisting William Shakespeare to front it. Interweaving past and present, the novel is a sweeping story of ambition, courage, and creativity, exploring what women must risk to have their stories heard and remembered.
Okay, Loved by the Book is a funny, moving story about the friendship between two London women at a crossroads in their 30s. Remy has written her best-selling debut novel based on her three best friends, but has lost touch with them and is unable to find inspiration for her follow-up book. Simone is a successful independent school teacher and sex worker on the side without a social life. The two women develop a friendship after bumping into each other at a bookstore. Kirkus says, Remy and Simone each have character arcs full of drama and personal growth, and George writes with an uncommon degree of care and nuance about complicated topics. It's a beautiful and all too rare look at the importance of platonic love. Read Lights first, So Old, So Young by Grant Ginder. This is another story about friendship that is described as both moving and funny. This one's about a group of college friends brought together by 5 parties over the course of 2 decades. And in The Divorcees by Rowan Beard, this one's an exploration of female friendship about 2 women at a 1950s divorce ranch in Reno, described as rollicking and poignant. Okay, Last Night in Brooklyn. It's 2007, and Alicia is in her late 20s. After moving into a Brooklyn neighborhood populated by an alluring group of young creatives, Alicia becomes ensnared in the secret past of a glamorous, up-and-coming fashion designer. Against the backdrop of a potentially life-changing presidential election and a looming once-in-a-generation fiscal crisis, Last Night in Brooklyn explores the dark compromise of the American dream for people of color living unknowingly in the twilight of a cultural movement. Fellow author Rachel Calm calls it The Great Gatsby reimagined for Black and Brown Brooklyn. Thrillingly alive and electrically entertaining, Last Night in Brooklyn explores the topics of ambition, growing up, money, class, and community. Sirens and Muses is about 4 artists at an elite art school in 2011 New York. It explores similar themes of selfhood, ambition, art, class, money, youth. And Everybody Rise by Stephanie Clifford, a 26-year-old prep school graduate, tries to carve her own path in 2006 Manhattan. Again, lots of similar elements. You have money, ambition, class, wanting to fit in, that kind of thing.
Jordan Harper's A Violent Masterpiece set in Los Angeles, which is a city on the brink, a chaotic playground of crime, corruption, and lurid spectacle. A Hollywood pedophile is arrested, a young woman disappears, and the infamous LA Ripper stalks the streets, leaving brutal crime scenes in his wake. 3 unlikely figures: Jake Deal, a gonzo live streamer drawn back into Hollywood's dark underbelly; Doug Gibson, a street-smart lawyer facing a case bigger than he imagined; and Cara Delgado, an underground concierge searching for her missing friend, find their paths converging as they uncover a massive city-wide conspiracy. From secret clubs and multi-million-dollar sex parties to riots, murder, and tech bro orgies, they navigate a world where power and depravity intersect. Together, they must confront LA's darkest secrets and decide how to fight back before the city and themselves are consumed in the bloody, explosive finale. Three legs are gonna be Peter Heller's Burn, which is lifelong friends Jess and Story journey deep into Maine's wilderness for their annual camping and hunting trip, unaware that the state and the country is convulsing with sensational unrest. When they stumble upon a town in ruins with bridges destroyed and buildings burning, their survival becomes a desperate scramble. Dragging a wagon over rough roads, scavenging abandoned boats, and dodging armed factions, the friends face both external chaos and personal tests of loyalty. Part thrilling survival story, part meditation on friendship, Burn explores the bonds that sustain us even amid political upheaval and societal collapse. And In All the Water in the World by Irene Kafal, Noni, a girl deeply attuned to water, lives with her family atop the American Museum of Natural History in a post-glacial New York. As they hunt, farm, and safeguard humanity's knowledge, a superstorm forces them to flee north on the flooded Hudson, carrying a precious book that records their saved collections. Along the way, they encounter communities adapting in unexpected and often dangerous ways. Part survival adventure, part meditation on preservation. The novel celebrates love, knowledge, and the resilience needed to build a new world from the remnants of the old.
Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker is a dual timeline horror. The first timeline, Lee must flee New York City after he has mysteriously murdered his roommate. His question is why? He arrives in Japan at his father's newly purchased country home. The house is strange, and at night a woman with a sword appears. The second timeline, Sen is hiding from Imperial soldiers in a small, out-of-the-way house in the country. But something is very wrong here. A vision of her father, but not her father, continues to appear and is asking her to do outrageous things. As the soldiers come closer, a foreigner starts appearing in the yard. One of these stories is a ghost story. The other is a lie, in this chilling, atmospheric story steeped in Japanese folklore. My first read-alike is The Jin Waits 100 Years, because of its similar focus on uncertainty and ghosts in a old, crumbling country home. In this one, a crumbling mansion becomes a boarding house for an eclectic group of misfits, and in a forgotten wing whispers a dark past lingering. A grieving Jin appears, an invisible spirit remains. I'm so sorry. I'm so excited to tell you about this book that it is coming out all weird. In a forgotten wing, whispers of a dark past lingers. It is a grieving Jin who is an invisible spirit to most, but remains digging into the past like fingers into a terrible wound. This book is described as spine-chilling and atmospheric, lyrically written, and something you should probably read with all of the lights on in the middle of the day. The other read-alike I have is Nothing But Blackened Teeth, because of its focus on Japanese folklore. It is a creepy novella about a group of friends who spend the night in a real haunted house in Japan. But something stirs in the dark. It is an explosive exploration of grief and horror and the ways that it twists us on the inside. Is Yesteryear by Carol Kane Burke. A beautiful American woman, a traditional wife and mother who sells her pioneer lifestyle of raw milk and farm fresh eggs to her millions of followers, suddenly awakens cold, filthy, and terrified in the brutal reality of 1805. Is it an elaborate hoax from a jealous online hater, a twisted reality show, or something more sinister in this unsettling, thought-provoking debut? The first read-alike I have is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Because of its focus on a character kind of being dropped into a seemingly impossible other world, Charlie, a troubled teen, befriends a cantankerous neighbor and his dog after he answers cries for help. Charlie discovers a mysterious tunnel to a fairy tale, but how can it be real? Is it a hoax or something far darker? This is an engrossing novel written with Stephen King's usual wit and general creep factor. The other read-alike I have is Kindred by Octavia Butler. Because of its similar premise of a woman finding herself mysteriously transported to the past and facing the harsh realities thereof. In this, Dana, a modern Black woman, is celebrating her 26th birthday in California when she is suddenly transported to the antebellum South. It seems that she has been drawn to protect a white ancestor. As she keeps getting drawn back to the past to protect him, her stays become longer and more dangerous in this time-bending, thought-provoking book that is a classic of sci-fi.
Miss Mabel goes back to the chopping block. So in this heartwarming, feel-good novel, a newly divorced trophy wife in her 60s enrolls in culinary school to win back her husband, who is leaving her for the private chef. Mabel thinks she is enrolling in a cooking class in France, but winds up in a satellite school in a small village outside of Oxford, England. But this disappointing turn of events leads to new friendship and self-discovery. Sutanto's heartwarming, feel-good story of a formerly entitled woman who learns she has desires of her own and is more than arm candy, is laced with humor and will appeal to readers who enjoy stories of women who reinvented themselves. A couple similar reads would be Sunny Side Up by Katie Serino. This is a heartwarming and hilarious novel about a New York woman making a fresh start after a divorce. This one specifically has a body positivity theme. And the last original wife is a funny and poignant tale of friendship and love about a woman who is the last original wife among her husband's successful Atlanta social set. And she decides to take some time for herself in her beloved town of Charleston.
Ghost Town by Tom Perrotta. In this, a young man, Jimmy, is finding himself in suburban New Jersey in the 1970s. He's being drawn into troubling friendship with two older teens after a terrible loss. One teen is a notorious local burnout with a shaky grasp of reality, and another is an eccentric girl whose interest in the occult seems contagious. Narrated by an older Jimmy, the story is being described as revealing how the past haunts the present and how grief shapes us. The first read-alike I have is Grief Cottage by Gail Godwin because of its similar premise of a young man dealing with the loss of a parent and setting in a small-ish town. In this, Marcus is set to live with his great aunt Charlotte on a small South Carolina island. On the island, Marcus discovers a cottage the people in the town call Grief Cottage that seems to be haunted by a boy with more in common than is comfortable for him. Described as a haunting tale about the line between life and the next. The next read-alike I have is The Correspondent by Virginia Evans because of its focus on older perspectives on grief and reality. In this one, Sybil has written letters throughout her life to help her make sense of the world around her. But when she receives a letter from someone from her past, it forces her to re-examine one of the most painful periods of her life in this bittersweet story with one of the most memorable characters you will ever read according to most reviews. It's described as a powerful novel about finding connection and solace in literature and the knowledge that only comes from a life fully lived.
Eileen Garvin's Bumblebee season. Beekeeper Jake Stevenson is facing a busy honey harvest he can't manage alone, especially with local teens uninterested in farm work. When Flaco Lopez, a young migrant from Mexico, gets lost on Mount Hood and discovers Jake's hives, the two form an unlikely friendship. They are soon joined by Abigail Plew, a scientist devoted to studying threatened native bumblebees. But when a local developer plans to build a commercial hunting camp that would devastate Mount Hood's wilderness, the home of both Jake's honeybees and Abigail's honeybees, they must unite to protect the land and the bees. Full of heart, humor, and a love of nature, Bumblebee season celebrates the power of human connection, resilience, and the delicate balance between people and the natural world. And to stick with environmentalism, I picked Richard Powers' Overstory, in which he weaves a sweeping intergenerational tale of people and trees, exploring the hidden, interconnected world of nature from antebellum New York to the Pacific Northwest's timber wars. A group of individuals learn to perceive the vast, slow, and inventive life of forests as they awaken to this living network. They become entangled in its looming catastrophe, creating a powerful story of ecological awareness, activism, and humans' fragile place within the natural world. And in Northwoods by Daniel Mason, I know we just did this for a book talk or a book discussion, so maybe familiar with most of you right now. A humble cabin in New England becomes the center of centuries of lives, love, and secrets. From young Puritan lovers to soldiers, spinster twins, artists, and even a stalking panther, each inhabitant confronts the mysteries of the woods while the forest itself silently witnesses history unfold. Structured around the 12 months, this sweeping novel explores memory, fate, and the profound connections between humans, nature, and the past, asking how life continues and how we endure long after we're gone. This one's gonna be a little weird. The Subtle Art of Folding Space by John Chu. is on several of most anticipated sci-fi fiction of 2026. Esquire, New Scientist, Literary Hub, and Book Riot all are talking it up right now and putting it on their top sci-fi or best sci-fi. In Subtle Art of Folding Space, Ellie's life and the universe itself is unraveling. Her mother lies in a coma. Her sister Chris attacks her emotionally and literally, and a secretive group of engineers is attempting to seize control of the Skunk Works, the machinery that maintains the physics of each universe. Meanwhile, Ellie's cousin Danielle discovers an illicit device in the Skunk Works that keeps her mother alive but also destabilizes reality. To save both her family and the universe, Ellie must confront generational trauma and uncover hidden family secrets, navigating a dangerous path where every choice could threaten the delicate balance of the multiverse and her own relationships. I went with weird in sci-fi for real likes. So the Mountain and the Sea rumors of a hyper-intelligent octopus species with its own language and culture draw marine biologist Dr. Han Union to the remote Con Dao archipelago, hired by a tech giant Dianima. She works alongside a battle-hardened security agent and the world's first android to study these extraordinary creatures as global powers move to exploit the octopuses for profit and scientific breakthroughs. Dr. Nguyen must navigate high-stakes ethical dilemmas and the intelligence of a species whose desires no one has yet considered. A thrilling exploration of consciousness, communication, and human legacy. And Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shannon McGuire, one of the Home for Wayward Children series, Rinnie arrives with a splash at Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children, where kids who have returned from magical worlds adjust to reality. But when she discovers her mother died before Rinnie was even born, she must embark on a perilous quest to restore her, and in doing so, save an entire magical world. Racing against the ticking clock of reality itself, Rinnie relies on the school's seasoned students to navigate danger, magic, and the impossible stakes of existing in this inventive standalone fantasy adventure.
Maria Simpson's newest, Go Gentle. In this, Adora seems to have it all figured out. She's a stoic philosopher and a divorcee who is a tutor for an elite family. However, a handsome stranger, a black market art deal, and an international intrigue upend her world, leave her wanting more. It is described as a gripping, well-written story of self-discovery and midlife transformations. The first read-alike I have is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Because of its similar writing style and because the story focuses on self-discovery. In this, a young reclusive woman discovers her own strength as she explores the world around her and builds unlikely friendships with coworkers and elderly neighbors. The other read-alike I have is Where'd You Go, Bernadette? Also by Marie Simpson, by Maria. This is a story of a quirky, artistic woman who disappears and finds herself and her family on a whirlwind of comical events to escape suburbia. A fun, sharp-witted, character-driven story about one woman's journey inward.
Liar's Dice is a beautifully written, heart-rending debut novel about a teenage girl living in politically fraught 1970s Brazil. After Dolores' identical twin sister, Mita, develops a mysterious illness and is sent away to a London hospital, her family moves and begins to act as though Mita never existed. While Dolores attends a British school, she decides to do whatever it takes to get her sister back. Written with extraordinary compassion and insight, it is an immersive coming-of-age story that reveals the wild depths of the human heart. So in addition to the coming-of-age theme, there are the additional themes of repression and silence, family secrets, and the bonds of sisterhood. Our Little World by Kieran Wynn is another debut that's described as a powerful and lyrical coming-of-age novel. This one examines the complicated bond of sisterhood and how the traumas of youth can shape our identities. And Hard by a Great Forest, again another debut, and in this one a Georgian refugee living in London returns to his war-torn home country to search for missing family members.
The original is a fictionalized story of Katharine Hepburn's life from a young girl to her rise as a Hollywood icon, put into the world of rivalries, betrayals, and deep friendships. With sharp prose and unforgettable characters, this is a story of love, aspiration, and the price of living authentically in a world that demands conformity. The first read-alike I have is Me, Stories of My Life by Katharine Hepburn. It is actually a nonfiction title. It is a biography, an autobiography that she wrote about her time in Hollywood. It is described as absorbing and provocative. The other read-alike I have is The Girls in the Picture, because it is also a fictionalized telling of two of the earliest female stars in Hollywood, Frances Marion and Mary Pickford. It is described as a novel about power in the early days of Hollywood. And we are now on to the nonfiction. The first nonfiction title we have is Selling Opportunity, the story of Mary Kay. This is a meticulously researched rags to riches story that reads like a novel according to the reviews. It is about Mary Catherine Wagner, born in rural Texas in 1918. She was a dutiful daughter and diligent student, married at age 16 and a grandmother by 34. However, in 1963, after her third divorce and widowed twice, she decides to start her own company selling skincare and the multi-level marketing scheme that we all know as Mary Kay was born. Both of my read-alikes have to deal with what multi-level marketing schemes are and talk about Mary Kay and its legacy. The first one is Selling the Dream. It is written by Peabody and Emmy Award-winning journalist Jane Marie, and exposes how multi-level marketing schemes work and how they prey on the American working class. The other one I have is Little Bosses Everywhere by Bridget Reed. It is described as a wild trip down an endless rabbit hole of greed and exploitation. It is a meticulously researched book that delves into more of the history of multi-level marketing schemes. Try saying that 3 times fast. And then the next nonfiction title we have is The Vast Enterprise. This is described as an original, compelling, and memorable book that sheds new light on the story of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Through meticulous research, this book offers a more accurate account of their fabled journey across the United States, humanizing forgotten details and shattering long-held myths. So both of my read-alikes have to do, of course, with the Lewis and Clark expedition. The first is the Journals of Lewis and Clark, if you want to delve into the original source material for most of the writings about their expedition across the United States. And then the other is Undaunted Courage by Stephen E. Ambrose. This is described as a thrilling chronicle of the Lewis and Clark expedition and its aftermath, meticulously researched and narratively written.
Joyful Anyway. So the main message of this new self-help book by Duke University professor Kate Bowler is that you can't always be happy, but you can be joyful anyway. Honest, embracingly tender, Joyful Anyway proves that experiencing joy does not depend on resolving everything that makes life difficult. Drawing on a decade of living with serious illness and a lifetime studying America's obsession with progress, Kate Bowler shows why people so busy chasing happiness miss out on actual joy. This book is described as profound, funny, large-hearted, and wise. So, in the same vein, The Joy You Make by Stephen Petro explores the many expressions of joy and how to find, cultivate, and share it even in our darkest days. And Living Fully by Mallory Urban is a guide to living without holding back and an invitation to embrace abundance and joy. Poetry Says It Better. So this is Academy Award-winning actress.
I
Ellen
wondered
Burstyn.
if that was she or
Yes, yes. So in this book, she shares with readers her lifelong love of poetry through a biographical anthology of her favorite poems. So featuring works by W.B. Yeats, Edna St. Vincent Millay, Rainier Maria Rilke, Mary Oliver, William Wordsworth, Edgar Allan Poe, Rumi, William Ernest Henley, and others, Poetry Says It Better is a perfect daily companion for everyone looking to deepen and add meaning to their life experience. Burstyn's tender, graceful selections serve as ample evidence that a poem may inspire our day-to-day, moment-by-moment intention to be kind and to be conscious. A generous, heartfelt gift. That's from a Kirkus starred review. So the read alikes I have are also poetry anthologies. Americans' Favorite Poems is an anthology of poems chosen from the personal letters of thousands of Americans who responded to the author's invitation to write him, telling him what their favorite poems are or were. So that's kind of the genesis of this book. And then the Poets Laureate Anthology was put out by the Library of Congress, and it's the first anthology to gather poems by the Poets Laureate of the United States.
Megan Garber's Screen People examines how modern media has turned our lives and our fellow citizens into entertainment. From reality TV presidents to curated Instagram feeds, the line between reality and spectacle has blurred, conditioning us to see others as characters rather than people. Through 10 insightful chapters from procedures who shape our narratives to the extras we reduce to objects of amusement to the haters who treat anonymous figures as prophetic. Garber explores how our obsession with diversion fuels loneliness, mistrust, misinformation, and cynicism. Blending sharp cultural critique with urgency, Screen People reveals how entertainment has shaped our politics and society and offers guidance for reclaiming our attention, empathy, and understanding in a media-saturated world. Relic's going to be The Chaos Machine by Max Fisher, who exposes how social media giants like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube exploit human psychology to drive engagement, spreading extreme opinions, and fueling real-world consequences. Tracing the global rise of hate speech, misinformation, and polarization, Fisher shows how these platforms help destabilize societies, from distant conflicts to America's pandemic, 2020 election, and the Capitol insurrection. Blending investigative reporting and analysis, the book reveals a world reshaped by algorithms that prioritizes profit over truth, with profound effects on democracy, culture, and human behavior. And a little bit more recent, The Anxious Generation, which you might be familiar with. I think we're going to do. We already did it. John Haidt investigates the alarming rise in teen depression, anxiety, and self-harm since the early 2010s, linking it to the collapse of play-based childhood and the rise of phone-based generation. Drawing on social science and real-world data, Haidt explains how social media, sleep deprivation, isolation, and perfectionism have reshaped adolescent development, with girls and boys affected in different ways. He offers practical solutions for parents, educators, and policymakers to restore healthier, freer childhoods and combat the mental health crisis facing today's youth. One more. Three more. All right, Roxanne Kamzi, Beyond Inheritance, reveals that our DNA is far from static. Our genomes are constantly mutating from conception to death, shaping our health in profound ways. These hidden changes can be harmful, like mutant blood cells raising heart attack risk, or beneficial, such as liver cells adapting to excess calories or immune cells producing stronger antibodies. By viewing our bodies as ever-evolving landscapes of mutation, Kamsi shows how understanding this genetic diversity could revolutionize medicine. From more effective vaccines to cancer treatments that anticipate the enemy, Beyond Inheritance challenges the traditional view of DNA and eliminates the extraordinary potential hidden within each of us. Read Alikes are going to be The Code Breaker by Walter Isaacson. Isaacson chronicles the life of Jennifer Doudna, who helped pioneer CRISPR. It's an
Gene editing.
yes, no, it's not. Is it an acronym? Or it's an revolutionary tool for editing DNA. From her fascination with the double helix to winning the 2020 Nobel Prize with Emmanuel Charpentier, Doudna's work has opened a life science revolution with the power to cure diseases, prevent viral infections, and reshape humanity. Isaacson explores not only the scientific breakthrough, but the profound ethical questions CRISPR raises about how far we should go with rewriting our genetic destiny. DNA is Not Destiny by Stephen J. Hine challenges the notion that our genes define who we are. Drawing on cultural psychology, he explains how DNA influences life but does not determine it, offering surprising insights into the limits of genetic engineering and DNA testing with clear, engaging writing. Hine shows that environment, culture, and personal choices shape our identity just as much as biology, revealing that while our genes matter, they do not control our destiny. April 14th. Thanks for coming.